All right, so I need to get into this before I forget it. So I'm on a 60-day sprint to pivot from teaching into data analysis. My goal is to go from making about $20 an hour to 60 or 80. In order to do that, I got to get some new skills. But I'm wondering, how do you juggle a transition like this, where you have to go to work like normal, but also have to learn new skills, do a lot of unpaid things, and in the hopes of getting a job at a brand new career field? If you have any tips to balance everything out, let me know in the comments. So, me and a buddy started a kind of accountability group. He got like a master class or something like that, and we're sharing it on becoming a data analyst. I breezed through the first part, which was SQL. So I breezed through the SQL lessons, did like 2 of their inbuilt practice questions, but I'm trying to get a job as quickly and efficiently as possible. And so the skills that I would normally get from just doing practice questions that don't result in any output, any real world output. The practice questions are actually done on like an online platform, but you do SQL locally or on a network, not just some pre-built platform. It takes anyway. So I need to build things in order to improve my skills and also present to future employers. My first project is controversial. I have to figure out a way to present the data, but I will say I built it. I built my very first dashboard, my first data analysis project, with the goal of combating some of the racist arguments from people who try to use data to prop up, racist arguments that just aren't true. So I went and got some data, and that was project 1. But the results, while conclusive and prove out my theories or the results of my data analysis using real world data available from government agencies prove out my hypothesis. It's still controversial, so I have not yet figured out a way to package it for job searching. The second project, though, is being made specifically to showcase the dual sides of data analysis. Right? One, there is research, right? I have to collate and gather together pieces of information from different sources until I can build a coherent picture of a market. And in this case, the market is about ride sharing, specifically peer-to-peer ride sharing potential revenues. This is because Web3 is on the forefront of the design. So this is a project built around Web3 concepts and technologies, specifically the PEAQ, PEAQ network. It's like a blockchain. It's in the crypto space as one of the blockchains that's available, specifically made for housing DePIN, IoT or Internet of Things type data. So that's ideal for making P2P services that cut out, big corporate actors. Anyway, so and the reason this is difficult, and the reason it's, I think, important work, is because the big corporate actors, especially in the rideshare space, keep their data secret. Unless they're bragging or boasting about profits and revenues and potential growth, getting concrete numbers requires a lot of logical inferences, math, statistical analysis. And so this is the research side of data analysis, where I'm gathering up research, and I have to talk about it now, because it's getting to a point where if I don't talk about it now, I won't remember how I did it when it comes time to talk about it. So this is for archival purposes and future reference. So this is the start. All of that was preamble, and now this is the start. So we're going through rideshare profits by make. Why by make? So to begin with, we start out with the biggest rideshare app in Vietnam, where I am, is Grab. And they, since they have the most market share, they provide the most data, the most bragging, the most boasting, the most profit projections and that kind of thing. So they projected their profits. We find out, we know how much they made in the previous years and how much they made this year. That's available because they're a public company. So I know how much they made. From that, I needed to determine how much they made from drivers, right? From their drivers, I needed to break down how much each driver generated, so that we can translate that generated data, that generated revenue, into a P2P format for a brand new ride sharing service. That's a Web3 ride sharing service. So we took the market data, we took the total profits. We had to break down the profits by manufacturer, because what is easy to get is how manufacturer sales per year. So we can find out how much VinFast sold in 2020, how much they sold in 2021, 2022, and build a similar kind of projection. And then, because Grab tells us how many cars are, they don't tell us exactly how many cars. They give us a round number of 200,000. They say they got a fleet of about 200,000. So using that fleet data, we know 200,000 cars on Grab. We know VinFast sold X amount of cars. We know every car has to be 2011 or higher. So taking all of the manufacturer data combined with the revenues from Grab and the potential profits that Grab shares with potential drivers. You know, they say, oh, if you drive for Grab, you can make about X amount per month. And then, you know, a lot of research companies and have done surveys with rideshare drivers about how much they actually make, their actual realized revenues and profits. So using the survey data plus combined with what Grab advertises, we can find out a kind of a mean of what a driver makes. Knowing what a driver makes, we know there are 200,000 drivers, so we can now know how many cars there are. We divide the total number of cars by the ratio of popularity of car brand and car sales figures. And we can get the amount each manufacturer contributed to the total of Grab. And then, so that's what we've done here. That's why I have the 2024 revenue attributed to each make. So Grab made 1 billion, 1.73 billion in 2024. 158 million of that was contributed by VinFast. All right, and so I've done that. And we needed to do that so that we could also find out profitability of a car for a single driver, right? A single driver has one car. We didn't know how much they're going to make over the lifetime of a career as a Grab driver. So I keep saying we, but it's just me. I had to find out average miles driven, amount driven, gas usage, maintenance costs, you know, how many people, how many rides are given in a day. There's a bunch of factors that I have to find from different places. None of them are databases of data. There are surveys. Many different organizations do surveys, and then I have, you know, map data about city size. So because Grab is not popular everywhere in Vietnam. It's mostly centered on the two main cities, Hanoi and Ho Chi Minh City. You know, there's some in Da Nang. There's cities all over. They list where exactly they operate in the country, but it's not that many places. So I can take the city size, the average amount a driver must commute or a person commutes in a day, figure out how many rides a driver gives a day, how long. There's a bunch of factors that go into it. I've taken all of those into account to generate a lifetime profit. This is by manufacturer, but it goes more granular down into and after I've discovered how much the profit the company contributes in the lifetime of a car, so I can use those two data points to figure out how many cars each company has in the Grab fleet. So I figured that out. All of that's here. But, you know, you'll notice that this others has a big market share. The sales data and like auto census data in Vietnam is not super comprehensive, and then the grab itself gatekeeps all of that information. So I was able to get the most popular brands ranked, and then it cuts off. But that's too big of a market share to just be others. So I need to find more detail. So I had to go back again into the data and do some more math. There is the Vietnamese automotive. Where's the group? What's the name of it? Here, Auto Manufacturers Association. All right, so the Vietnamese Auto Manufacturers Association collects the data, packages it up for survey companies, statisticians. I was able to get a hold of their data for automobile sales. Now, again, they don't have super granular data for every make and model, obviously. But I got a little more than the top 10, so I was able to split the others into some. I was able to split others. Now, others makes up, 153 million in revenue. So that's too big for an unknown. So I was able to split that up into another 5 or 6 companies based on this VAMA data, this automotive sales numbers. Then this is for 2024, which is the main year we are doing our data on, luckily. But I think I can get more to confirm my assumptions here. Anyway, that's it. That's it for today. I think that's it. I finished the granular data part, but for the research-based analysis, I've got all of the numbers, sales and everything, how much the gross revenue of a car for a driver, for a single driver, using peer-to-peer network has the potential to completely eliminate actors like Grab or Uber or Lyft or whatever name you know. And using, DPIN, or it's like real world tokenized assets. So using tokenized assets for the car, like a car itself, it would be 1 unit of a cryptocurrency on the blockchain, like PEAQ. And then what is it called? DeFi, decentralized finance, and what are they called? I don't know why I'm it's late. Smart contracts. I don't know. So using tokenized assets, tokenized cars, and smart contracts between the riders and the drivers. Um, the just the rules of a smart contract would allow every rider to use an app like Grab. They would have an app like Grab, but it would not be run by any company. It would just be run by the smart contract and the smart governance of the stakeholders. So the people who use the service, who use ride shares, would be able to vote on rules for ride shares. It's a novel idea, but I mean, not novel. Democracy is one of the oldest ideas in the world, but it's novel for technology because it's completely attainable. It's basically a kind of technology that's already finished. It's already doable, and they do it on small scales now. But I think if they had a data analyst like me who could work with the data, manipulate it, and get the live data streaming into Power BI or something like that, and then they could code their smart I think I could be a useful member of a team who is doing something like this. Regardless, peer-to-peer rideshare would be immensely profitable for drivers. It had the very, very high possibility of reducing costs for riders, and it would still have all of the same organizational and safety, which I know safety is lacking in some of these, but organizational safety and efficiency capabilities coded into the smart contracts, and the payout functionality automatically would happen on the blockchain, like the PEAQ blockchain. So that's analytics side, and I just had to say all of that because I would forget how I did this. Anyway, there were qualitative surveys that I had to take into account, population data that I had to run numbers against. There is, there's just all kinds of metrics that needed to be organized, sorted, quantized, and then run through a gamut of tests and math in order to figure out how much. So what I'm going to do with this information is tell people how much a driver on a peer-to-peer ride service could make compared to off. How much I actually don't care about how much it costs. Someone may. That's marketing, in my opinion. How much cheaper is it than an Uber? That's marketing. Who cares? The main thing that this first analytical data is just about breaking down cost, value, revenue, profit, that kind of thing, which is essential. I think all of these numbers are essential in converting rideshare app drivers from their big companies to a P2P network. And you know what's great is because the network would be P2P, you know, a driver could drive for both. You know, while the network grows, they're going to drive for Grab and then take, you know, every so often. But they will find that while driving for both, and you know, as the user base grows, the profitability, the difference in profit between a P2P network and a centralized network is so great, like 3 to 5 times higher. It's so much higher, so much more profitable. And that's for several factors, not just because of the fare, but also because of like tokenizing the assets means investors can invest in the asset. So a driver might drive and earn fares, but then an investor could invest in a driver to get a nicer vehicle and then automatically collect some small portion of each fare until this, you know, in perpetuity, essentially. And if a driver was, so I wanted to be a driver. I don't have a car. I live in Vietnam. I don't have a car. I want to be a driver. If I qualify to be a driver based on the governance rules set by passengers and investors and other drivers, just stakeholders, the governance rules set by stakeholders, and if I qualify, I can go to potential investors, and these are all collated and connected and available on the network. So this would be a function of the app natively. Yeah, I want a car, I qualify, and then 1,000 investors who are also users, you know, of the service would say, okay, boom, they would invest their crypto, just like millions or hundreds of millions of people invest their crypto every day, every hour. They would take their tokens and put them in to this tokenized asset, you know, and they would own a portion of it. This new car that I'm now the driver of, and I drive, and every fare, every fee, they get their little cut. I get my cut, and the driver base grows organically without having to rely on these, you know, restrictive partnerships that the big companies, right? Grab has to go to Toyota and make a special program to rent a Toyota for drivers, for Grab drivers to rent a Toyota at special rates in order to upgrade their car, in order to make a little more money, and then Grab takes out 2/3 of that, and the driver only keeps 1/3, but it's a whole thing. But in a peer-to-peer model, a Web3 PEAQ network type of model, which I am analyzing the data for as we speak, there's no big companies involved. There's much more freedom for drivers, passengers, stakeholders. Anyway, so that's my second project. I want all of my projects to be profitable, immediately useful to companies so that they can see, oh yeah, we should hire this guy because he knows how to analyze data for business purposes, how to find and collate and make useful dashboards which improve sales metrics or hit whatever KPIs. You know how it goes. So that's it. It's a lot of an explanation, but This is for archival purposes. I have to write this up after the project is finished. I'm gonna do it for tonight.